All right, this is James Gilliland with World Puja. We've got another great show today. We've got Ralph Ring, and Ralph Ring is a brilliant, innovative technician who, as a young man in the late 1950s and early 1960s, worked closely with Otis P. Carr with the aid of his Paul James Carr, who was himself a protege of the great inventor Nikola Tesla, built a number of flying discs which worked prior to their experimentation being forcibly terminated by government agents. And I know about this experience too, and we can talk later about that. There's a dramatic experiment where co-piloted a 45-foot disc a distance of 10 miles, arriving at their destination instantaneously. In more recent times, Ralph's been interviewed with the History Channel and Alternative Media and Project Camelot and Red Ice Creations and quite a few others as well. So without further ado, I want to bring Ralph on the show. Ralph, are you with us?
Yes, I am, James. Good morning.
It's great to have you on the show. I've always admired your work, and I was always curious about your work. As a young man, I was raised in Apple Valley, California, and we used to drive by your facility there constantly, with your sign with the UFO on it. And we were trying, I was always trying to get my mom to stop. I said, I want to see that. I want to go there. I want to check out the flying saucer, and they would never, let me go there. And then all the rumors came around about the FBI coming in and shutting everybody down, and it's a fraud, and it's this and that, and all the other, So, unfortunately, I never did get to experience what was going on there.
Well, I wish you had. You would have been welcome, that's for sure. Anybody that's interested in what we were doing was welcome. The ones that weren't interested in what we were doing weren't quite as welcome. But we were stirring up some dust there in Apple Valley when we were there, and we had a lot of things going on. People thought we were. I don't know what we had our prototypes going around the valley and stuff, and I guess they thought they were flying saucers and stuff. It was just our prototypes, but anyway,
Oh, go ahead.
Well, we were having a lot of fun, and but more than that, we wanted to get the prototypes working so that we could produce larger craft, and before we ran completely out of money and funds and people to help us, and introduce them to the people in a gentle way where they could understand there's something there they don't understand, and demand that an investigation or an explanation from the powers that be.
And the powers that be, we all know, are especially now are using deadly force to stop these innovative technologies, especially any kind of fuelless energy or technology that isn't burning the conventional fuel.
Yeah, they're blowing up transformers and all kinds of things going on. I don't know. It just seems to happen. And
I work with a German scientist that has all this technology. He's got not just the anti-gravity, the counter-gravity, and all the other things. And I tried to help him get this technology out. And, we ran into opposition on every level, including his family being threatened and his lab being blown up. And even some mafia people stepped into the picture, and luckily we missed a meeting that would not have been in our highest and best good, so it was just, even people in the industry, the so-called, fuelless energy technology or whatever, or fuelless free energy, whatever a lot of those groups turned out to not be who they said they were.
Yes, we found many of those people coming in and wanting to become a part of the betterment for all mankind and so forth. And we found out when we gave them a little information, they tried to run with it, and actually it was counterproductive. They were not really that interested in humanity. They were interested in trying to perhaps make more money on producing what we had,
Yeah, that seems to be an ongoing thing. We we had a joke about that. We were talking about, you know, if vegetarians eat vegetables, what do humanitarians eat? So whenever these people came up to us and said they were a humanitarian, we were just waiting to watch them try to eat up our assets or our technology or whatever.
Well, I think the tables are now turning. I think people are starting to wake up with the advent of the internet and all the people that are really tired of the old revolutionary system going around and around in circles, and they want to really start evolving now into a greater awareness, a greater reality, a greater consciousness of who and what we really are and how we can really make a, you know, a paradise again of what Earth is supposed to be.
Yeah, it seems like, you know, the Earth was hijacked from its original intent, you know, basically was to become an Eden where people could progress and evolve to their highest potential, and now it's devolved so far into just pure greed and elitism and you know, actions against humanity in the Earth. But I think that it's hit its pinnacle, its peak. I don't know if it can get much worse. It might get a little worse, but I know there's the energies that are coming in that I call them the powers that were are slowly you know, losing that iron grip and stranglehold on, you know, progression.
Well, I feel in essence the bottom line is nature's holding the trump card, and that, you know, all is good really, and no matter what they throw at opposition or counterproductive things, in the long run what goes around comes around, and that's to me the first law of nature. So if they've painted themselves into a corner, which they obviously had, now they're going to seek out the visionaries and the discoverers and the inventors that are, excuse me, that have been waiting in their garages and backyard laboratories to produce some of the ideas that they have concerning free and abundant energy. And when they do that, then they'll affect a change eventually, where it'll just happen overnight, because we've been waiting for years to just be invited to introduce what we have to show them.
Yeah, I'll have to introduce you to this other man. Yeah, it's quite amazing, because I've held this energy in my hand, this technology. I know it works. I've seen it operate, and I have video of it operating. And it sounds interesting that you had some prototypes. Now, were these like smaller craft that you were flying around the area?
Well, in Apple Valley, we we had all kinds of things going. We had different types of craft and everything, but the ones that we had operational were just small. Well, they were 6-inch to 12-inch in diameter, and we moved them around all of Apple Valley and Hesperia area. We tried not to cause anybody to get upset or nervous or think of them as anything different than experiments, but some of the projections that we had would produce a corona around them, kind of a purple light, and this is what attracted the people to thinking they were flying saucers. But actually, they were just small prototypes that we were experimenting with, and then we wanted to get a manufacturer. We had perfected our where we wanted to be. We perfected the prototypes to that point, and then we needed somebody that would help us manufacture them. So we went to General Motors, and that didn't seem to work out. They didn't want anything more to do with us. They thought we were trying to kill the monetary system. And all we wanted to do was slow it down long enough to get some newer and better and different ideas into place.
Now, these technologies that you were using, they seem to have a component. Now, I know the craft, I guess the 40-foot or 45-foot disc that you had, there was if you don't mind talking about that, I don't know if you want to give away any secrets.
No, there's no secrets. We don't have any secrets at all. If
Yeah,
it,
yeah. The craft, now it seemed to be totally aligned with consciousness, and it would raise it would arrive at the destination instantaneous, which means it probably was actually raising into a different frequency, where it was beyond the physical and just jumping to wherever you focused on. Is that correct?
yeah, we just changed frequency, just like you change them on a radio station. You change from AM to FM, or modulation can go up and down, and it's really quite simple. It's so simple that most people, don't understand it, but it's the same thing as going to your favorite whatever sports or movie or outdoor adventure and getting excited. When you're doing that, you're raising your vibratory rates, and you're starting to expand your conscious awareness of what you're looking at or what you're experiencing, and you find yourself for the moment, or sometimes extended to sometimes minutes, in an altered state of realizing you're in another dimension. You're looking at the same thing from many different angles simultaneously, instead of one single angle. So it is consciousness, and everything. And Carr, we used to have long talks about consciousness, because he said that without consciousness, nothing will ever work. It'll keep going around and round in circles. And he equated consciousness to being who and what we truly are. We are living in a state of manifestation that we ourselves create with our minds, and we have the power to change that. We have choices all the time. But the unfortunate part is, in the system that we've been exposed to, it keeps repeating the same picture over and over, instead of allowing the change to take place. They always bring the past and try to put it into the future, instead of being content with the now and allowing nature to help us change.
Now the disc, it seemed like there was some kind of a sphere in the center of the disc that was interactive with consciousness. Is that correct?
Yeah, it was a crystal. I'm guessing at 12 inches. I don't know how large it was. It was a circular crystal, a spherical crystal, and it was faceted. And a light came through the bottom. I'm assuming it was laser. I'm not sure of the source of the light. I wasn't an engineer. I was just merely a lab tech. But I was honored by Carr to be a part of the initial operation. And the light would come through the crystal and illuminate the entire craft inside. It was beautiful. It had millions of colors. I couldn't begin to describe. I could sit all day and describe the colors of red, and all the way from infrared to ultraviolet. It was millions of colors. That's all I can say. And then when we were given the signal that we were going to now change our frequencies, change our vibratory rates, the crystal started glowing and tuning into one frequency, which equated to the color of aquamarine, and the interior of the ship lit up like I was underwater. It was beautiful. It was just, I can still see it.
And so then the guidance system, was that just according to the consciousness of the group, or how did you pick a destination?
Well, they had the engineers, the way I understand it, went downrange and found a specific area which was isolated, so we wouldn't have a lot of interference from anybody, and measured it electronically and they found that area equated to the light and color spectrum of aquamarine. And so they, and Carr explained resonant frequencies and resonant I'm trying to find a word here, explain it. Resonance,
Well, they match frequencies of, you just match the frequencies of the area, and then it just, I guess, jumped to that area.
yes, yes, yes. Marcia, do you remember the word I used to use for this to explain it? I've got Marcia here with me, incidentally, James. I'd like to
Okay.
have her. Do you remember when I?
It was just the different frequencies that radiated or functioned with the color aquamarine, and it had been measured down about 10 miles down, and that's where the saucer would land then.
Yeah.
Would,
Well,
I can't remember.
I
the
still
exact
can't
word.
think of the name
Yes.
of the term of it. I'm sorry, I stalled here a little bit, but
Is it like sympathetic resonance or something?
yeah, yeah, that's exactly what it was. We resonated with the color of aquamarine, which was measured down range, and it happened to be around 10 miles, I believe it was. And then all we were told to do was just to clear our minds, take all the thoughts out of our minds completely, and don't think of anything. And we would go through the experience. And Carr explained that consciousness is who and what we are. We are not per se physical beings at all. We are energy fields that operate through the vessels that we call and relate to as being physical. But these are produced by the mind in nanoseconds, if you will. We have little cameras for eyes that see in so many frames per second, so that we seem to be visualizing a denser form of matter, which is really only energy, but we perceive it as matter. So when you understand these principles, and Carr got into them quite extensively, then you free your mind to realize that if we're energy, then we're also everywhere, because energy is everywhere, and we're already everywhere, and all we have to do is change our mind to be to bilocate to a different frequency, a different dimension, and so forth. So by clearing our minds, it gave us the opportunity to just sit quietly, and he said your brain, which is a computer, will operate to its optimum capacity to maintain the physical idea of a physical vessel, but it operates all the components, all the machinery inside the machine, which we call a body. But it won't, anything outside of that is an outlaw. It does not accept anything that doesn't relate to its function, and that's taking care of the physical third-dimensional concept that we're holding. So
Like a spiritual technology in a way that like spiritual bilocation through technology and consciousness interface or something of that nature.
yeah, yes. And he said that once you realize that we are all interconnected, that we're all really one collective consciousness, then again that frees your mind up to realizing that, well, if I'm just energy and I'm not tied to the ideas that I've been programmed to accept, then I can create anything I choose at any given time. And in this particular case, he wanted us to choose silence, to just completely keep our minds quiet a long enough time to go through the experience. He said your brain will try to come in with thoughts, just ignore them. Don't pay any attention to the thoughts. You're safe. You always have been. You always will be safe. You're protected by who and what you are, and you are an infinite being experiencing a physical reality. So anything that comes at you on the way of a third-dimensional definition, just ignore it, because you're not operating on that frequency. So we quieted our minds, and actually we thought at that moment we weren't experiencing anything when we heard Carr say the experiment was over, to come down to debriefing, and we looked at each other and said, well, really nothing happened. We didn't, our bodies didn't move, the ship didn't move, so we thought. And we came down into the lab and into Carr's office, and we said, well, it didn't really work, did it? And he says, well, you think not? And we said, we didn't really go anywhere. And he said, well, that's what your brain is telling you. You didn't do anything because it cannot operate in those frequencies that you were operating in. You were operating in and above those frequencies that it can comprehend. So empty your pockets out, and we did, and we had sticks and stones and all kinds of stuff in our pockets that wasn't there beforehand.
Yeah.
And he said, someday your brain will catch up with you and you'll remember some of this stuff, but right now it doesn't want, it refuses to accept the fact that you did this, because you actually teleported beyond the concept of time and space. There is no time and space unless we create it. And you are creators. All of us are creators, and the experiment was based on the creation that we wanted to benefit mankind by a technology that exists in the ethers, not connected to the conventional technologies that builds automobiles and space stations and rockets, but one that operates on magnetism, which is inexhaustible fuel. You could go forever and never run out of fuel using magnetic power, because it's the glue, it's this gorilla glue that keeps everything held together. Our bodies, our ideas of a body anyway, and all the material world is held together by magnetism, and it's an inexhaustible fuel. And so,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Go ahead. Well, it seems like that, just that knowledge alone would be the biggest threat to the powers that be, because then, you're not just a commodity anymore. You're not, you can't be controlled once you understand this. And you don't need, the big pharmaceutical companies or the big energy companies or even the war industry would be gone when people realize that everything is one and shifted into that unity consciousness.
True, so very true. And Marcia and I have been going around the country for years now, just on little lecture tours and talks. And we have affected some changes, because people come back to us now. We're inundated with email every day with people wanting to know more, so much so that we can't handle it. We have to kind of delegate some of the stuff, because but they want to know more. They say, well, I feel this, I feel what you're saying, but I want to know more. And when they realize that the state of existence that they're living in is almost a state of servitude. Well, it is a state of servitude, because they are programmed, by the media and so forth to do certain things at certain times, and we're under laws that really are not natural in essence. We're under the admiralty law instead of natural law, and all those things come into play that they want to know more about, and we try to explain them as best as we can. We don't know very much, and in fact I try to keep my mind empty so that anything of value can come in. But so we kind of refer them off to people that know more about the admiralty law, for example.
We do a lot of practices here. One is Qigong. It's a very ancient practice, and they call it the practice of no mind. And there's certain forms and postures that you get into, and it opens up all the energy centers of the body, and it's amazing, because we're having people actually disappearing, phasing out and then reappearing and things like that. It's kind of amazing. So I understand that technology, but it seems like they had some kind of a laser crystal interface that created that same effect, somehow through some form of technology.
You know, when you're dealing with energy and crystals, you know, the crystals are extremely useful in holding frequencies. They can hold frequencies for thousands of years, actually, and so that you can, you know, change the vibratory rates of crystal and change the structures of things by understanding sacred geometry and the way you place certain things at certain angles, affecting a change. But I'm very interested in what you guys are doing up where you're at. You're actually inviting in consciousness from other dimensions that are now, because of our dire situation, we're on the edge of extinction. They've been allowed to breach the galactic pact of intervention in any planetary affairs and coming in to help us, and we're very grateful for that.
That's one of the things they said, that they said the prime directive has pretty much been released, and because there was so much other intervention and problems and things, that now there's kind of a new game on the books, you know, where they can come in and take more of a hands-on situation. And most of the work they're doing is very similar to the work that you were working with. Most of the work they're doing is through consciousness, and through you know, spiritual technologies that raise the frequencies and change the consciousness, and you know, clean up the old program, you might say, or the old grid, you know, that's here now, and clean up some of the old psychometrized energies that are, you know, stuck in ruts, you know, old religious programs and things like that.
Yeah, they're soon, well, even to this day and age right now, realizing that the old methods are phasing out. They no longer work as they used to. You can't lie, cheat, and get away with things like you used to be able to, because the system we're gravitating towards now is a system of truth, a system of love, and it's a lot different than deception or even weapons. Or in all our work, we found that on our craft, weapons are obsolete. There's no need for weapons, and we had to love our work and love our craft. It was a synergy between the ships that we were working with and ourselves, and it's very difficult to put into words, because it's something that people are not used to hearing, but everything is alive and well in its own dimensions. And the craft itself, we honored it for what it was, and the energy field that it produced, that we were allowed to experience within it, and so forth.
I know when we've had contact with some of the Pleiadians and the more spiritually advanced beings, and you know, a lot of their craft, they talk about them as living entities that they interface with, and some of them are you're almost like married to it. You know, it's in a good way, but it won't work. You know, some of the craft will not work for anybody else, but its owner or whoever, or the one that
the operators. Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. I was hedging that. You know, I didn't want to you know, lose the audience by saying that, but we find, and Marcia and I, we live in the woods here in Paradise, California. We have a place here in Prescott, Arizona, and we spend at least a third of our day communing with nature. We have wild animals here and birds and everything, and we find that we get on every day. We get on a more friendlier terms with the nature of these little creatures, and Marcia goes wild when she sees these javelina coming through the yard and stuff. But then we talk to them, and they slow down, and you know, and our dog gets friendly with them, and it's just a matter of communing with life itself. There is no danger if there's no fear. Fear creates a danger because it sets up a resistance, and when you have resistance, you have persistence. So whatever you're resisting is going to get stronger and stronger. So we found by having little or no resistance to anything that we kind of welcome the essences of other dimensions to come into our consciousness, and we can communicate with them quite nicely, and it's very fun. It's a joyous feeling continuously. We refuse to accept fear or doubt in our demeanor or our vernacular. We say everything is good, whether the brain wants to counter that and say, oh, you're being ridiculous or not. It doesn't matter. We counter the brain by saying, oh yeah, just go to sleep. It's all good. And so it is.
Now, yeah, neuroscience now is just coming out with a lot of this, and they're seeing that we get billions of bits of information coming through our eyes and our senses, but we disqualify it, and we only choose a small amount of that information that's going to be useful to us, to maintain this 3D reality. And so it's so, everybody goes, I'll believe it when I see it, and not understanding the way the mind works is that you do actually see with your mind, and according to your reference points or what you've chosen your reality to be versus having new experiences come in and alternative realities and things of that nature, coming in and having to prove themselves to you, which I think is a very, contradictory program that they're running.
Yes, and I had the experience. I worked for a government research lab at one time, and and a friend of mine was in charge of operating the electron microscope, and this was a super modified electron microscope. You could see forever with this thing. And we were talking about energy one day, and he says, "Here, give me your finger," and he stuck it under this scope. And I looked at it, and then I kept putting my finger in and out of the slot where I was told to put it, and all I saw was energy. He says, "That's all you really are. There's nothing there but energy. You're holding it together with these cameras that you call eyes, and so many frames per second you're modulating and zoning in on the frequencies necessary for a third-dimensional reality. But you're much, much more than that. You're just energy. And when you realize that, you can expand that to be whatever you want it to be on any level. You're free, and you're not encased in what you call a body, because you're creating that, and you have the powers to create anything you want. So that opened my... Go ahead.
Do you think a lot of the problems we're having is because of not so much even the physical pollution, but consciousness pollution, and the airways are filled with disease and sickness and all these other things, and then by maybe falsely attuning to that, or you could go back to even those creations that do pollute are also a form of consciousness that's been kind of aimed in the wrong direction.
Well, Marcia has something to say on that subject, on the medical field, honey, and with buying into the idea.
Well, what happens, I think, is the collective consciousness comes together, and as we buy into, I'm always telling Ralph, we don't say it's my arthritis or my heart attack or my whatever, because we accept all of the beliefs of the mastermind, you might say, to come into us, and the universal mind says amen to whatever we accept as ours. So I think I know it's time for us to stop claiming all of these things, because in our reality, if we're all one,
we're all perfect.
And we're all perfect. We've all been created perfectly, and as long as we can accept that perfection, we can experience it in these bodies.
Being a little devil's advocate here,
Okay.
it seems like there are a lot of people say, well, there's environmental influences, and there's so many toxins when you add up the chemtrails and the strontium and barium and aluminum, which are all heavy metals, and they're being distributed something like 6,000 times over the toxic levels, that according to the EPA, which isn't doing anything about it. But you look at all these, and then the scalar wave technology and the HARP and all these other things at play. It seems that they are playing with these frequencies and these energy patterns and things of that nature. So they, it's almost what came first, the chicken or the egg, But,
And too, James, that is all true, and it does affect all of the people. Unless we get beyond that, unless we can get our consciousness beyond this third dimension, beyond our belief,
beyond the belief system. We have to get into the knowing system. There's a difference between beliefs, because they can be disbelieved just instantly. Somebody can come along and cause you to disbelieve it. But when you know what you're doing, you're tired, you're sleepy, you're hungry, those are things they can't take away from you, because they are known. And then it goes infinitum to more and more things. Once you realize you're free and one, and nothing can harm you unless you allow it. And that's what the system has done, is allowed the propaganda, the media, or the stuff to filter in, and they start buying into the beliefs that it's real. And actually none of it is real. It doesn't really exist, except when they create it by accepting it. But when you turn the tables and accept nothing but truth, nothing but love, nothing but who and what you are, and goodness is everywhere, nothing can penetrate that field unless you let it.
and it kind of goes on a little bit further than that, James, because we have to see beyond, like, each other. We can't see the mass consciousness being affected by the chemtrails. We have to look beyond that and see the perfection of the oneness of who we all are. So it gets pretty deep, but it's simple if we just start doing it, if we just start knowing it.
And if you have, let's say you have a group, that they're all together, and you have one person opening the door to this, a lot of this negative program or agenda, and then you have, one person, focusing on what they would like to see, like heaven on earth, and without these things. I think it's real important that you have some kind of group consensus,
I understand what you're saying, and I do think I think that's the importance of all of us. You hear now many people are coming home, or we're becoming, our families are coming together because of, like, this what you're doing right here with this radio program, and what we're doing on the internet. I mean, there is so much. We're coming collectively together in a conscious realization of oneness. And I know we've seen you on a couple of videos too, and
yeah.
It's just wonderful that we are coming together and meeting many people that they're in this wavelength. We have a lot of consciousness growing to do, and sharing with other people.
Well, it does seem like we're getting a lot of help, because the Mayans talk about the ninth wave that's moving through of unity consciousness, and I sure felt that when it went through, and it seems like it's our destiny to move into unity consciousness and start working in harmony with each other in nature, and those who are not aligning with that truth or that evolutionary process that's underway, let's say that the people that are holding the consciousness of separation and tyranny and greed are, all that seems to be accelerating.
Well, we in some of our talks we plant seeds, of course, but one of the seeds that we plant is people have the idea that they're here to learn, hence the academic system that's grown and grown and grown, and keep people in a kind of a squirrel cage, learning more and more and more of really things that aren't relative to who and what we are. And we just kind of plant the seed that we're not here to learn, we're here to remember. Remember who and what we are. We're not squirrels in a squirrel cage. We're not puppets. We're not robots. We're magnificent beings equated to God, and we have the power to stand up and be and say the things that we are have been given the right to do by God, not by man. You know.
Yeah, we seem to be caught in this matrix of social consciousness, and you know, those who have the reins right now, you know, are definitely trying to, you know, maintain this process or this program, and it seems to be falling apart, and I'm all for it. You know, it needs to be, it needs to fall apart, and be transformed into something that, you know, has, you know, the individual freedom in it, and you know, the right to experience a loving, joyous, abundant life, you know, without all this other outer interference.
James, I had one question for you. With your contact with the Pleiadians and the Venus people or whoever, do you see that we're getting consciousness help from them at all? Are they you know, like showering some positive consciousness to the Earth plane, or do you know that?
Yeah, they definitely are. They are working on so many levels in the unseen. People don't even know how much help we are getting, and they are working with. You know, a good example is you know, the Dome of the Rock. I don't know if you saw that video where the UFO, you know, popped in right over the Dome of the Rock and sat there, and it just completely lit up the whole area, charged it, and then took off. And you know, I asked them what that was about, what they were doing, and they said that there's so much ancient pain and suffering and religion, and the old, you know, the old ways are psychometrized into that area, and the Wailing Wall, same thing happened there, that they are actually transforming that energy and getting rid of all that old psychometrized consciousness to allow for, you know, the shift to happen. So they're monitoring the entire Earth and the energies of the Earth and where these dense pockets are, and you know, altering them through their spiritual technologies, and they're also, you know, altering the fields around humans and assisting them in the process. And the sun too, as well, is activating, you know, the DNA and opening up different DNA lines, which will move people into telepathy and direct knowing, and you know, the old separation game is just coming to an end, and it's a natural evolutionary process of which they are participating in, and they're helping us, you know, to make this transition.
Well, the opposition now that we understand in our present state of mind is we are now welcoming what we once resisted. We're now welcoming them because we actually thank them for whatever they're trying to do to stop us. Then they tap our phones, and they've followed us around, and they've done things for years and trying to you know, threaten us about speaking about things like this and so forth. But now we welcome them because they're just strengthening us. There's not really much they can do except threaten. And we have learned to just turn it around and be very grateful for the opportunity of them presenting their case. And we just ignore it and go on with what we're doing. We have now pods, what we call pods, little sectors all over the world. We have them in Sweden and Australia, Hawaii, everywhere, that are now waiting in the wings to produce some technologies that will overnight, within a year or two, change the entire global situations to be one of love and peace. But we have the opposition still not wanting to learn, not wanting to give way or invite us to participate. But it's only a matter of time till we're able to do that. And with the help of the Palladiums and whoever else is helping us now, we're going to get the job done here very quickly. I feel within the next couple of years that this whole thing is going to change.
Yeah, I'm getting the same information, definitely. You know, we're in the middle of it right now, and in the next couple of years, there's going to be a complete turnaround. And it's a frequency and a force that no man can stop. I don't care what kind of technology they have or how big their armies are or anything. It's not going to matter because, you know, they're up against something that is really them on a higher level.
Yes, they're really fighting with themselves and they don't realize it. That's the trump card.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like this ego. It's like this ego is running amok here, you know, and above that is this huge lion, and it thinks it's going to win the war, you know, with a pea shooter.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not going to last. Yeah,
exactly.
it's not going to. I always tell them resistance is futile. You know, the awakening process is going to happen, and the Earth is going to do her transition to the next level, and we have to match her frequencies if we're going to stay here.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah, we feel very in tune with that. We're looking forward to meeting you someday and being able to, if you come down our way, you're always welcome here. If we come up your way, I hope the same is true.
Oh, definitely.
And
Yeah, I would love for you to come up and see these ships. We just put I can send you a copy of what we just filmed just a few days ago.
I'd appreciate
Some
that.
of these ships look like suns.
Wow.
I mean, they're huge, and they come in, you know, and just totally powered up and very, very big, and they'll come over the ranch and they'll power up, they'll light up, and it just expands, you know, into a huge light, and then they'll make a turn and go off, you know, and cruise off over the treetops in the back. And we've got hundreds of hours of footage of these craft, you know, doing everything from bilocating into 3 different ships back to one again, and just crazy stuff. And you know, we still have like the James Todd of the planetarium here, you know, he's the head astrophysicist there or whatever, and he says, oh no, that's just the space station, you know. So this thing lands on Mount Adams, it lands, it morphs into 3, back to 1 again about 6 or 7 times or more, and then takes off. And his explanation was that, and same with the other scientists, they say we're just filming meteors and satellites and space stations.
Oh, really? Well.
Yeah. Now, I have the footage that he was watching, and then I have his statement on video, actually with ABC News. And I asked the reporter at ABC, I said, didn't you kind of question that when he said it was a space shuttle, that the object was actually landed on the mountain and morphing from 1 to 3. I said, wasn't that I said, why didn't you ask him about that or question him about that? And he goes, oh, I didn't think about it. I was just getting his side of the story.
Oh boy. Well, you know, there's so many things that when I used to live on Mount Rainier, and I got friends with my neighbors were rangers. And they opened the doors of secrecy about Mount Rainier. There were cavern systems and caves down in the mountain, and I remember this one incident where they told me they went into this huge cave down to a lake that was there, and there was a sort of a boat there, and they managed to get to the other side, and they went through these rooms where these giants were. They were 9 and 10 feet tall giants. They were bodies, but they were red-headed giants that were there, and then evidence of all kinds of drawings and everything that related to spaceships around the place. So you know, these and I understand that there's something to do with giants where you're at as well.
Yeah, there's the people there's an underground facility here too that has several races coming in and out, and they seem to be working with the other off-worlders as well. They have some type of a universal agreement or something, but yeah, there are some robed beings that are very, very tall. You know, I'd say 8 to 9 feet tall, and we have a lot of Bigfoot running around here too as well.
Wow. Well, we'd love to come up and and see you and converse with some of the energy fields up there. That would be wonderful. Maybe.
Yeah, we don't watch TV here. Everybody's talking about TV shows and things like that, and I just look at them and just say I don't have a clue, because we threw our TV set out in about the 70s, early 70s. But we pull our lawn chairs up and sit outside and watch the UFOs, and they put a show on almost nightly. A couple nights ago, we saw about 50.
Wow.
And we just stopped. Every once in a while we'll get a dud night. We'll only see about 2 or 3 high flyers up there. And it's a slow night. But it depends on the people. If you're working on the right side of the fence, you might say, and if you're service oriented, trying to help humanity, Earth, they seem to put on quite a show. They acknowledge you being here. We've had kahunas come here, and these ships would come in and power up for them and put on a little show, and they know, they'll scan the consciousness, they'll know who's here, and depending on the group consciousness depends on how low they come and what kind of a show they put on, and also whatever else they're doing at the time. They might be busy working on other projects on the Earth.
Well, I'm looking forward to the day then when Marcia and I can come up and see you and see what's going on up there. That sounds.
Experience the energy of all that. I believe that would be such a fantastic thing to do, to actually, like you say, sit and actually feel the energy of the other Earth, or the other multiverses coming together in one.
Well, we do the same thing here. We have a gigantic porch around our home, and it's all out in the wilderness. We've got trees all around, and we sit there in the morning and we watch the blue sky start bringing in clouds, and then the clouds start forming into different shapes and everything, and then it seems like the density of the clouds begin to bring the birds out at certain times, and we can monitor patterns in the wildlife because of the changes in the temperatures, of the changes in the clouds actually as they change. So we have not the craft that are coming in visibly, but we seeing other forms of nature that are happening. And we'll have little birds land. We have hummingbirds, and they land right, within inches from us and look at us. And it's we have a different view, but it's the same thing. We don't care much for television as well.
Yeah, it's all tied in together. It's really interesting. I had a picture taken. We have a statue of Buddha and Mary sitting side by side, and this wonderful pink energy coming down over Mary. And it's actually shot in the west in the morning, so the sun's behind us. It's not a lens flare. And the light's bending out, and then above Buddha there's this big orange, like a ball and a shaft of energy going off the top of his head, and it's hitting me right in the lower back, and I was having back problems at the time, and we actually got it on film, and around that picture were these little blue lights all around the bottom of the picture, and so John Kelly was doing reverse speech, and he asked me what the little blue energy balls were, on the around the bottom, and I said, I don't know. I think there's some kind of nature spirit. And when they did reverse speech, it said Mary's elves say to love her.
Oh my gosh.
Mary's elves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it ties, that all these experiences like that, for me here, have tied, the ultra-dimensionals, the UFOs, the ascended masters, the ancient gods, everything. It just ties, all of that together, including the nature kingdom as well. They're all, working together, and it seems like we're the ones that are out of sync.
I think we all have to catch up with what's really going on, because if we don't, we're going to become extinct, the way we're polluting everything and stuff. But there's the change can come overnight to people if they want it to, if they really, really want to remember who and what they are, and that we're all one, that we have a synergy with each other, that we're all really brothers and sisters. There is a greater brotherhood of man that exists here, if we'd care to unbury it and raise the veil of forgetfulness up high enough so we can see the reality of who and what we are, and let the earth return to the garden in which it was intended to be. And we can just glide above it and come down when we choose to enjoy it.
Yeah, definitely. I really have a positive feeling because I know all the Native American prophecies. They all talk, about the beast and how the beast eventually consumes itself, and then after that there's 1,000 years of peace, and we reunite with the star nations, and the earth is healed, very quickly. So, they all have a common cause, and then I found out too from the Mayan calendar folks there, from the main shamans there that talk about the Mayan calendar, they actually said the calendar was given to them by the Pleiades, and they talk about the same thing. So it's I just see that we're going to go through an end of time as we know it, or an end of the world as we know it, and shifting into a whole new world. And it's time. We can't keep going the direction we're going.
I think, James, I feel that we're in that time. We're in that shift right now. With the Earth, Mother Earth disasters or changes. They aren't really disasters, but the challenges, the Japan incident, and many different things. I feel that we are in the change, and those of us that will accept those changes and go to remember who we really are, start using our intuition and just the senses that we know that we have, but we haven't. They've been covered for all these eons. If we now start using those senses again, we will be ahead of the game. We will be above or beyond some of the changes where the other people will have to go through them.
Well, we're in some of our talks, James. We're kind of combining our talks with a workshop in a kind of a miniature combo. We try to give examples to people, and we try to give them little things they can do themselves to make affect a change. And one of those things is time. We tell them that you've been on a program timing for a long time, that you have your own time. And if you live by your own time, you'll always be on your own time. And you'll find you'll change your realities. If you are, for instance, had an appointment and you chose to take care of something more important at the moment, by the time you got to your appointment time would change, or the people you were appointed to meet will change. You can change your realities simply by changing your timing, because it is your time, not somebody else's. And so we've had people come back to us and say, my gosh, the parking places things have long been working for them, but then now they find that wherever they go, they're on time. And just little things like this kind of egg them on to trying other things with their mind, using choices of words, using word sculpturing, dissecting words and finding out what they're really saying, like the word depressed. When people get into thinking about a depressed situation or depressed person, they say, oh, well, you'll have to leave them alone, and you'll have to, they're sick, they need to go to a doctor and get some energy pills or something. But when you take that word and dissect it, you see you're saying they're in a deep rest. And when they're in that rest, they can stay there as long as they want. They'll come out when they're ready, on their own time, when they're ready to come out of having had enough of the world's punishment. They'll come out and no longer, have to adhere to being told what to do.
Unfortunately, we're out of time. I know I could probably talk forever with you, but what's the best way for people to get in contact with you to find out more about, some of your workshops or classes or any other things that you have to offer?
Well, thank you for asking. We have a website. It's our webmaster's in Australia, and the website is called, it's one word, bluestarenterprise.com. That's BLUESTARENT ERP RISE, not a Z. Okay.
.com.
Enterprise.com. And we have not only from our group, but we have several groups that are participating now and on the website that can extend information into the ethers if they so choose to look into them. We can give them information about more of the energy fields which they inhabit, and workshops if they choose, people to contact if they choose. But thank you for asking.
Well, unfortunately, we're out of time, so we'll have to sign off now. But I'll be in touch, or feel free to call us, because we can talk further about, some networking and also, about any visit you want to have and come up here and see the ships for yourself.
Oh, we'd love to do that. And the same goes for here or when we're in Paradise. We have a home there as well, and you're always welcome. We have facilities. You're always welcome to come down and see us. Do you have a phone number we can reach you at?
Yeah, best to just call the 509-395-2092 number.
Okay, and our home phone number here, in case you choose, is...
Or maybe we'll just do that off the air.
All right,
Yes.
great. I'm sorry.
You don't want to get on in danger.
No, I don't. No, we've had enough. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, James. Hey, nice talking with you. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Great. All right, well, take care, and thanks for coming on the show, both of you.
Thank you, James. Have a blessed day.
Adonai.
All right, stay. All right. This is James Gilliland with World Puja signing off. Have a great evening or day, depending on when you listen to the show.